My twin sister was the favorite until I got my revenge. You ever live your whole life feeling like you're the backup option? The afterthought? The one who was just there? Yeah, that's me. I'm Jake, 25 years old, and I have a twin sister, Emma. On paper, we were raised in the same home, by the same parents, under the same rules. But if you looked a little closer, you'd see the cracks, the way they formed early and deep. My parents? Oh, they were masters of illusion. To the outside world, we were the picture-perfect family. We love our twins equally. They'd gush at neighborhood BBQs. They're both such a blessing, they'd say at family gatherings. And don't even get me started on social media. They'd flood their Facebook with pictures of us, captioning them with things like, "Our amazing twins. So proud of both of them." But inside those four walls, it was a whole different reality. See, Emma wasn't just a golden child. She was the only child in their eyes. And me? I was the one who came as part of a package deal. The signs were everywhere, even when we were kids. Like the time in 4th grade when we both took an entrance exam for the gifted program. I got in. She didn't. Instead of celebrating my achievement, my parents immediately called the school, convinced there had been some kind of mistake. There wasn't. But you know what they did? They made me feel guilty for getting in when she didn't. Or when Emma got a 92 on a math test, they'd take her out for ice cream and celebrate. Meanwhile, when I scored a 94 on my history final, "That's what we expect from you," they'd say. No ice cream, no pat on the back, just the expectation that I'd always perform. She made the volleyball team. They rearranged their schedules to make it to every game. I got into the debate club. "We're too busy, Jake. Maybe next time." And that was just the beginning. They bought her brand new clothes for college interviews while telling me to just wear what I have. "Girls need more options," Dad would say with a shrug. Mom would spend hours tutoring Emma in math, helping her with assignments, walking her through every problem step by step. Me? I struggled with English essays and asked for help. "Figure it out, Jake. You're smart. You see the pattern, right?" They had an excuse for everything. They were experts at making it sound fair if you didn't look too hard. Emma needs more help in science. That's why we got her a tutor. But when I struggled with Spanish, you just need to apply yourself more. Emma's more social, so she needs the latest phone upgrade. But me wanting a decent laptop for my video editing projects? That's just wasteful spending. At 14, I started keeping a mental scoreboard. I tracked every little thing, every unfair moment, every time they chose her over me. Emma gets a brand new laptop for school. I get a 5-year-old hand-me-down desktop. Emma gets driving lessons with Mom. I get told to practice alone in an empty church parking lot. Emma's friends can come over anytime. Mine? We need a week's notice. Individually, these things seemed small, but put together, it was death by 1,000 cuts. And the worst part? For years, I gaslit myself into believing it wasn't that bad. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe I was just being dramatic. Maybe I wasn't as deserving. It wasn't until I started hanging out at my friends' houses that I realized something was seriously wrong. One of my best friends, Ryan, had an older sister. His parents made sure both of them got the same opportunities. Same curfews. Same allowance. Same attention. My parents? They bent over backwards, only for Emma. And I convinced myself I was just being too sensitive. I wasn't. I was just finally seeing the truth for what it was. Realizing my place in the family. By the time high school rolled around, the pattern wasn't just obvious. It was impossible to ignore. We both got our driver's licenses around the same time. Emma? She had access to Mom's car whenever she wanted. Me? I had to submit a detailed itinerary, where I was going, how long I'd be gone, and who would be with me, just to maybe get permission to borrow Dad's truck. And even then, most of the time, it was a no. When it came time to apply for college, my parents practically held Emma's hand through the entire process. They sat with her for hours, helping her write essays, double-checking applications, setting up campus tours. Me? The website explains everything you need to know, Jake. At some point, you just start to accept your place in the family. Not because you agree with it, but because you realize fighting it is pointless. And my parents? They were geniuses at making sure I never fought back. They played this game at a master level. See, they never outright said, "We love Emma more than you." They never said I was the lesser twin, but they showed it. over and over and over again. And the worst part? I started to believe them. They had me questioning reality so much that I actually convinced myself that maybe I was second best, that maybe I just wasn't good enough. I wasn't being abused. They weren't cruel. They weren't neglectful. I had food. I had clothes. They came to my parent-teacher conferences. They remember my birthday. Granted, it was the same as Emma's, so not hard to remember. But there's a huge difference between providing for a kid and valuing them. I got the first. Emma got both. I told myself that when college came, things would change. I'd finally be free. The college divide. Emma went off to our parents' prestigious alma mater, a private university that cost more than most people's yearly salary. Naturally, mom and dad covered everything. Tuition, housing, meal plans, the works. They even paid for a luxury apartment off campus because the dorms are too noisy for Emma to focus. Me? I got into a solid-state school. Not as fancy, but a damn good education. And of course, the first thing Dad said when I told him was, well, at least it's affordable. They didn't offer to help me. Not with tuition. Not with books. Not with housing. So I pieced together scholarships, financial aid, and a part-time job at the campus IT help desk to cover my expenses. First semester was rough. Juggling work and classes was exhausting. I called home once just to vent about how hard it was balancing everything. You know what my dad said? This is good for you, Jake. You need to learn financial responsibility. Meanwhile, Emma was posting pictures of her shopping sprees, paid for by mom and dad, of course. An excuse? We just don't have enough for both of you. Always with that fake sad face. Funny how there was always enough for Emma's spring break trips to Cancun, though. Funny how they could suddenly afford to surprise her with a brand new MacBook Pro because her design class required it. Meanwhile, I was stuck using a 5-year-old laptop that took 10 minutes just to turn on. I told myself I didn't care. I threw myself into school, into work. And somewhere along the way, I found something I actually loved. Video editing. It started small, helping friends with their film projects. Then I started picking up freelance gigs for small YouTubers. Eventually, I got connected with some real brands, real businesses. Before long, I was making actual money. Not just pocket change, real income. Enough that by senior year, I didn't even need my campus job anymore. My parents? They never asked about it. Never showed the slightest bit of interest. Anytime I tried to show them a project I was proud of, they just give me a half-hearted nod and say, "That's nice, Jake," before immediately changing the subject to whatever Emma was doing. I'll never forget the moment my dad referred to my work as that little computer hobby of yours. Meanwhile, Emma's internship at some random marketing firm was apparently the greatest achievement since sliced bread. Then came graduation. I was finishing with a degree in digital media. Emma had her business degree. My grades were actually better than hers. Not that anyone cared. She still didn't have a job lined up. I already had steady freelance work. But in their eyes, freelance isn't a real career, Jake. That should have been my wake-up call. But it wasn't. The wake-up call came at our graduation dinner. The whole family was there. Grandma, aunts, uncles, everyone. My parents made a big show about how they had special graduation gifts for both of us. They handed Emma an envelope first. She opened it and screamed. Inside was a 3-week luxury trip to Switzerland. First-class flights, 5-star hotels, private guided tours of the Alps, $2,000 in spending money. Easily a $15,000 trip. The whole room erupted. Everyone was gasping, clapping. "Oh my God, Emma, that's amazing." Then my turn came. Dad handed me an Amazon gift card and a cheap coffee mug. It had "World's Greatest Grad" written on it in ugly block letters. Probably grabbed from the campus bookstore on the way to dinner. The room went silent. Even Emma looked uncomfortable. My grandmother suddenly became very interested in her napkin. I swallowed hard, forcing myself to stay calm. "Is there something else?" I asked, trying to sound neutral. Dad chuckled, like I had just said something hilarious. "Your sister earned this trip with her perfect GPA and her job lineup at Anderson firm. What exactly have you accomplished, Jake? Besides playing on computers?" I just stared at him. I didn't have a job lined up because I was already working, making actual money, supporting myself. But to them, it didn't count. Mom jumped in, trying to smooth things over. We're just being practical, honey. Your sister has a career path. You need to focus on finding a real job instead of expecting rewards for doing the minimum. That was it. 22 years of pretending we were treated the same went up in flames. They weren't even trying to hide it anymore. There was no explanation that could make $15,000 versus $100 seem fair. No excuse that could justify it. The proof was right in front of me. And for the first time in my life, I finally saw it for what it was. I didn't flip the table. I didn't curse them out. I just nodded, got up, walked away. I didn't owe them a reaction. Not anymore. The breaking point. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I sat in my apartment, staring at that stupid mug on my kitchen counter. For hours, I replayed every little moment. Every time they brushed me aside. Every time they acted like my achievements didn't matter. Every time they treated Emma like she was the second coming of Christ while I was just there. It wasn't in my head. It wasn't me being dramatic. The proof was right there. Emma got a luxury trip to Switzerland. I got a mug, like I was some random coworker they barely knew, and this was my parting gift after 5 years at the company. And the worst part? They didn't even think twice about it. They thought I'd just accept it, because that's what I'd always done. But this time, something snapped. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel hurt. I didn't feel sad. I felt done. And just as that realization settled in, my phone buzzed. Uncle Josh, the man who actually saw me. I hesitated before answering. See, my dad hated Uncle Josh, his older brother, the family outcast. They hadn't spoken in 15 years because of some old grudge over my grandpa's will. Something about a piece of land that my dad felt entitled to. He never let it go. Banned us from seeing Uncle Josh. Said he was a thief, a backstabber, a traitor. But the truth? Uncle Josh was the only person who ever made me feel like I actually mattered. In high school, when I tell my parents I was studying at the library, I was actually at his auto shop. We spent hours in that garage, working on cars. Specifically, his '69 Corvette Stingray. Candy apple red, chrome detailing. It was a wreck when he bought it. Some rich guy's midlife crisis car that had been sitting in a garage for years. But Uncle Josh, he saw potential in it. Just like he saw potential in me. He taught me everything. How engines worked. How to fix brake lines. How to sand down rust spots. He actually listened when I talked. He asked about my life. My interests. My dreams. My own father never bothered to do that. Uncle Josh, he made me feel like I was somebody. So when I saw his name on my phone that night, I picked up. Hey kid, heard you graduated. Congratulations. I exhaled, rubbing my temples. Thanks. Something wrong. And just like that, everything spilled out. The Switzerland trip, the gift card, the mug. By the time I finished, I was shaking with anger. Uncle Josh listened without interrupting. Then, after a pause, he said something that made me laugh for the first time all night. Your dad always was a self-important prick. I let out a breath. Yeah, come by the garage tomorrow. Got something to show you. The gift that changed everything. The next day, I showed up at Uncle Josh's shop. And sitting there, freshly waxed and gleaming under the morning sun, was the Corvette. The restoration was finally done. The chrome sparkled. The red paint job looked like liquid fire. Uncle Josh grinned and tossed me the keys. Hop in. I hesitated. You sure? We just finished it. Damn right, I'm sure. You helped build half of it. Now drive. So I did. We spent an hour just cruising through town, the engine purring like a damn lion. People turned their heads at every stoplight. For the first time in my life, I felt like a badass. When we got back to the shop, Uncle Josh turned to me, serious. Look, kid, this car's been my project for 10 years. You helped me bring her back to life these past 5. And now, I want you to have her. I froze. Wait, what? It's yours, Jake. Graduation present. I stared at him like he'd lost his mind. Uncle Josh, I can't take your Corvette. This is your baby. He shook his head. I got 3 other project cars. And besides, my back ain't what it used to be. Crawling under these things isn't as fun as it used to be. Consider this a gift from someone who actually gives a damn about you. I tried to argue, but he had already signed the paperwork. The title was officially mine. I couldn't believe it. Emma got a $15,000 trip. I got a $60,000 classic Corvette. But the real gift? Someone finally saw me. And the timing couldn't have been more perfect. Part 8. the moment of reckoning. My parents and Emma were due back from Switzerland in 2 days. For 48 hours straight, I detailed that Corvette until you could see your reflection in the paint. I wanted it to be flawless, because the second they pulled into the driveway, I wanted it sitting there like a goddamn trophy, like a declaration, like a challenge. The night before they landed, I drove to their house, parked the Corvette dead center in the driveway, and went inside to sleep in my old bedroom. I had never slept better. The next morning, Mom texted, asking if I could pick them up from the airport. I accidentally overslept. They took a taxi instead. When they arrived home, I was sitting on the porch steps, waiting. I heard the taxi pull up. I saw them laughing, talking, smiling. And then Dad saw the Corvette. His smile dropped. He froze. His eyes locked onto the car. Confusion, realization, then something else. Anger, pure, boiling rage. I just sat there waiting, and when he finally found his voice, the first thing he said wasn't hello or we missed you. No, it was what the hell is that? I smirked. Oh, that's my graduation present. His face turned red. You can't afford something like this. What did you do? Mom rushed over, panicked. Jake, please tell me you didn't take out a loan for a car. I shrugged. Didn't buy it. It was a gift. Dad circled the car, inspecting it like he was looking for a flaw. And then he saw the license plate frame. Josh's Auto Repair. His hands shook. Josh gave you this. I nodded. You've been seeing Josh behind our backs. And just like that, the real war began. The fallout begins. Dad's face was turning red, vein popping, jaw clenching, about to explode red. I just sat there, watching, waiting, because I knew this was coming. You've been seeing Josh behind our backs, he repeated, voice tight. I tilted my head, pretending to think. I wouldn't say behind your backs. More like away from all the BS. Boom. That did it. Dad lost it. We told you to stay away from him, he roared. He's a liar, a thief. And you're just letting him manipulate you. I scoffed. Manipulate me? Dad, the only person who spent my entire life trying to manipulate me is you. Mom tried to step in, her voice full of forced calm. Jake, honey, let's not turn this into something it doesn't have to be. Turn it into something. I cut her off, laughing bitterly. Mom, it's already something. It's always been something. I just finally stopped pretending it wasn't. Dad jabbed a finger toward the Corvette. I want that thing off my property. Now. I leaned back on the porch steps, stretching out my legs. Nah, I think I'll leave it here for a bit. It really brightens up the driveway, don't you think? His hands fisted at his sides. You return that car, Jake. Return it, and we'll help you get something reasonable. Something practical. There it was. That same old game. The one where they throw scraps at me and expect me to be grateful. You mean like the Amazon gift card? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Mom flinched. Even Emma, who had been watching this unfold with her suitcase still in her hand, winced. Dad's jaw tightened. That was a completely appropriate gift. Not everyone gets a luxury vacation after college. You're right, I said coolly. Not everyone. Just Emma. The air between us cracked. Silence. Mom shifted uncomfortably. Emma looked down at her feet. Dad? He doubled down. We have always treated you and your sister exactly the same, he growled. You're just too ungrateful to see it. And that was the moment I snapped. I stood up, slowly, stepping off the porch and onto the driveway. Oh, really? I said, voice dangerously even. Let's review. I started counting on my fingers. Emma got a new car at 16. I got a bus pass. Emma got a European vacation after high school. I got, what was it again? Oh, right, a congratulations card and $50. Emma got driving lessons. I got told to practice in an empty parking lot. Emma got help with college applications. I got just read the website, Jake. Emma got tuition, housing, meal plans, an apartment. I got, well, at least state school is affordable. My voice rose. Emma got a $15,000 trip to Switzerland. I got a mug. Silence. Dad's face was stormy. Mom looked away. Emma? She just stood there. And for the first time ever, I saw something like guilt in her eyes. The ultimatum. Dad finally broke the silence. You don't talk to your mother that way. I laughed. Actually laughed. Oh, that's what you got from that? Not the years of blatant favoritism? Not the way you've treated me like I was just the extra twin you had to take care of. His voice was eerily calm. You have two choices. I raised an eyebrow. You can return that car, apologize for going behind our backs, and we can move forward. Or, I asked, crossing my arms, where you pack your things and get out of this house. I blinked, then smirked. Dad, I don't live here. That threw him off. For a split second, I saw it, the flicker of realization. He wasn't in control anymore. He couldn't ground me, couldn't take my stuff away, couldn't make me beg for forgiveness. I wasn't under his thumb anymore, and he hated it. Then I guess we're done here, he said stiffly. Don't expect any help from us when that thing breaks down, or when you realize you can't afford the insurance. I shrugged. I can afford it just fine. My little computer hobby pays pretty well. Another silence. Then, he turned on his heel, grabbed his suitcase, and walked inside. Mom hovered for a moment, looking heartbroken. Jake, please. I cut her off. Enjoy your trip pictures, Mom. She bit her lip, then turned and followed Dad inside. The door slammed shut, and just like that, they were gone. Emma was still standing there. She shifted awkwardly, looking at the Corvette, then back at me. You know how Dad feels about Uncle Josh, she mumbled. I raised an eyebrow. Yeah, I do. And I don't care. She hesitated. The car's actually pretty awesome. I smirked. Damn right it is. Then, before she could say anything else, I got in, turned the key, and let the engine roar. Then, I drove away, cutting the cord. That night, Dad called. I let go to voicemail. The next morning, Mom called 5 times. Then Emma texted, Dad's really mad. You should apologize. I ignored that too. A few days passed, and then, finally, Dad called again. This time, I picked up. His voice was cool, businesslike. I've been thinking about this situation, and I'm willing to make you an offer. I roll my eyes. I'm listening. Return the car to Josh. If you do, your mother and I will help you buy something more appropriate for a new graduate. We could match whatever you've saved for a down payment on a sedan. I nearly spit out my coffee. Are you serious? I'm trying to meet you halfway, Jake. I laughed. Actually laughed. The Corvette is mine, Dad. Uncle Josh gave it to me because he actually gives a damn about me. Unlike some people, there was a long pause. Then, as long as you keep that car, you're choosing to disrespect this family. That's when I finally lost it. No, Dad. I'm choosing to stop being treated like an afterthought. The car? It's just a symbol. This is about 25 years of you playing favorites and thinking I wouldn't notice. Silence. Then, I think you need some time to cool off and reconsider your attitude. I smirked. No, Dad. I think I finally see things clearly. And then, I hung up on him. For the first time in my life. And damn, it felt amazing. The family reunion explosion. For the first time in my life, I had nothing tying me to my parents. No expectations. No obligations. No need to beg for their approval. And it felt liberating. I threw myself into my work, doubled my freelance income, and started landing bigger contracts. Meanwhile, my parents? Radio silence. Emma texted every now and then, usually to tell me how Dad's still really mad, followed by some half-hearted attempt to get me to visit. I ignored it. Then, in July, I got an unexpected call. Grandma. Jake, sweetheart, I need you at the family reunion this year. I hesitated. Grandma, please, she interrupted. I want both my sons there. I'm tired of this nonsense. Your grandpa wouldn't want this feud to go on any longer. I froze. She meant Uncle Josh. He had never been invited to family reunions because Dad refused to attend if he was there. But Grandma, she was done playing along. Does Dad know he's invited? I asked. She sighed. Not yet, but he'll just have to deal with it. I let out a breath. On one hand, I miss my grandma. She had always been one of the few people in the family who actually seemed to care about me. On the other hand, voluntarily walking into a situation where both my dad and Uncle Josh would be present seemed like a terrible idea. I almost said no. Almost. But then my girlfriend, who had been loving my new Corvette, smirked and said, "At least it'll be in public. Your dad can't completely lose his SHD with your entire extended family watching." Asterisk. And that made me say yes. I decided to arrive fashionably late to minimize small talk. And of course, I drove the Corvette. If I was going to face the music, I might as well play the full symphony. The showdown begins. When I pulled up, the driveway was already packed with cars. I could hear laughter from the backyard, smell burgers on the grill. Typical family reunion stuff. I took a deep breath and headed in. And then I saw him. Dad, standing near the coolers, beer in hand, chatting with Uncle Rob. The second he spotted me, his expression shut down. 1 minute he was laughing. The next, stone cold. Mom was nearby, shooting me worried glances. Emma was sitting with our cousins, showing off her Switzerland photos. And then Grandma spotted me. Jake, you made it. She beamed, rushing over for a hug. Come get a plate, sweetheart. The burgers are almost ready. I smiled and made my rounds, saying hi to my aunts, uncles, and cousins. Meanwhile, Dad and I did this little orbit dance. Both of us keeping maximum distance from each other. But the tension? Oh, it was thick. And then, about an hour later, Uncle Josh walked in, carrying a watermelon, like he wasn't about to ignite a family war. The entire backyard went silent. I swear, you could hear the ice melting in the coolers. Then, Dad stood up. What the hell is he doing here? He demanded. Grandma, who had been flipping burgers, turned around and sighed. I invited him, David. Dad's face darkened. After what he did, you're choosing him over me. Grandma's voice was firm. Nobody's choosing anyone. We're family, and it's time to start acting like it. Dad looked around, expecting backup. But nobody moved. Nobody spoke. He clenched his jaw and sat back down. Crisis temporarily averted. For now. Dad snaps. I was standing near the grill, chatting with my cousin Jason, when he suddenly nudged me. Hey, is that the Corvette out front? I grinned. Yup. Within minutes, we had a small group of cousins gathered around the car. I popped the hood, showed off the engine. People were impressed. Dude, this thing is sick, Jason said. Where'd you get it? My cousin Amber asked. Before I could answer, Uncle Josh appeared. We restored it together, he said proudly. Kid's got a natural talent for mechanics. Amber's eyes widened. Wait, this is the car? The one that caused the big fight. I laughed. Yeah, this is it. Jason ran a hand along the fender. Damn, worth it. We were all admiring the car when Dad appeared in the driveway, beer in hand, Mom hovering behind him. And then, his eyes locked on Uncle Josh, and something inside him snapped. So this is what betrayal looks like, he said loudly. Everyone stopped talking. I sighed. Dad, my own son, he continued, conspiring with my brother behind my back for years. That's when I lost it. Conspiring? I laughed. You mean learning a skill? Having a father figure who actually gave a damn. Dad's face turned purple. After everything we've done for you. I cut him off. Like what, Dad? And then, I let it all out. Right there. In front of the entire family. Every instance of favoritism. Every time they brushed me aside. Every time they made me feel like an afterthought. By the time I finished, the whole backyard was dead silent. Some people looked shocked. Others? They just nodded. Like they'd seen this coming. Dad stared at me. Then at Uncle Josh. And then, he lunged. Faster than anyone could react. He shoved Uncle Josh hard against the side of the Corvette. You always take what's mine, he yelled. Uncle Josh stumbled, but caught himself. Dave, don't do this. And then, Dad straight up punched him. Full on, right hook to the jaw. Chaos. Mom was screaming. Cousins were pulling out their phones. Grandma was yelling for someone to stop it. I stepped between them. What the hell are you doing? I shouted. Dad tried to shove me aside. Get out of the way. I held my ground. No. Uncle Josh wiped his lip, shaking his head. This is exactly why we haven't spoken in 15 years, kid. Your dad can't handle not getting his way. Dad turned to me, eyes full of rage. So that's how it is? You're choosing him over your own father. I stared him down. I'm choosing the people who actually give a damn about me. And that's when he said the words that should have broken me. But instead, they set me free. You're not my son anymore. Silence. And then, I smiled. Fine. And I walked away. The aftermath of the explosion. I didn't look back. Not when I walked off that driveway. Not when Mom gasped and tried to grab Dad's arm. Not when Emma covered her mouth like she'd just witnessed a murder. I just kept walking. And for the first time in my life, I felt free. No more proving myself. No more bending over backward for their approval. No more hoping they'd finally see me. They never would. And I was done waiting. I hopped into my Corvette, started the engine, and drove off, leaving behind 25 years of bullish asterisk T. That should have been the end of it. But Dad? Oh no. He wasn't done trying to control me. The lawsuit that never was. For 3 days, I ignored my phone. Calls, texts, voicemails from Mom. I knew exactly what they said without even listening. Jake, honey, your father didn't mean it. He was just upset. Let's talk, okay? We can fix this. No, there's no fixing this. Dad made his choice. And for the first time, so did I. But on day 4, a new number popped up on my screen. Uncle Josh. I answered immediately. Hey, you good? He snorted. Kid, I've been punched harder by a faulty car jack. But listen, your old man showed up at my garage. I sat up straight. What? Brought a lawyer. Said he's suing me for alienation of affection. I nearly choked. What the hell does that even mean? Means he's claiming I stole you from him, Josh said, laughing. Like I cast some evil uncle spell and brainwashed you against your own dad. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Dad wasn't just mad. He was spiraling. Josh, tell me you're not taking this seriously. Hell no. My lawyer already laughed him out of the office. But kid, he also wants the Corvette. I froze. What do you mean, he wants the Corvette? Claims I never had clear title. That I gave you a car that wasn't legally mine to give. I felt my blood boil. Dad couldn't control me anymore. So now, he was trying to take away the one thing that symbolized my freedom. I clenched my jaw. Josh, don't worry about this. I'll handle it. And I did. I called a lawyer friend from college. The title? 100% clean. My name? On every legal document. Dad had nothing. And when his lawyer told him exactly that, the lawsuit mysteriously disappeared. But that wasn't the end of it. Because next, Mom called. The final goodbye. Her voice was strained. Jake, your father's upset. I let out a breath. Yeah, Mom. I got that. He's only doing this because he's hurt. You embarrassed him at the reunion. You humiliated him. I laughed. You mean he humiliated himself when he punched his own brother in front of the whole family? She exhaled shakily. Please, just return the car. It's tearing this family apart. I closed my eyes, counted 5. Mom, the car isn't the problem. Dad's behavior is. Silence. Then a small, broken voice. Are you really choosing Josh over us? And that hurt. Because even now, she wasn't asking about me. How I felt. What I needed. She was just trying to guilt me into backing down. But I wasn't that kid anymore. So I took a deep breath and said the words I should have said years ago. No, Mom. I'm choosing myself. And then, I hung up, blocked their numbers, and walked away for good, living my best life. It's been 6 months. 6 months of no contact. 6 months of silence from Dad. 6 months of Emma awkwardly trying to text me once in a while. And in those 6 months, my business boomed. Landed a huge contract with Horizon Streaming. Hired 2 assistants. Moved into a house with a home office. And the Corvette still runs like a dream. My girlfriend and I take weekend drives along the coast. Top down. Music blasting. No family drama in the rear view. And sometimes I wonder, what if they had treated me equally? What if Dad had valued me the way he did Emma? What if Mom had actually stood up for me? But you can't change the past. You can only decide what you'll accept going forward. And I decided I wouldn't accept being the family scapegoat anymore. I spent 25 years being treated like I didn't matter. Now, I build a life that proves I do. And that's the only validation I'll ever need. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, share this video with your friends, and subscribe for more real-life family dramas. Let me know in the comments what you think about today's story. Was it fair or totally messed up? See you in the next one.